Hello children, welcome to Narayan Online Digital Classes. So today's PPT is based on atomic physics, Bohr's atom model. Okay, so let's see the first question. So here a small particle of mass moves in such a way that potential energy, its potential energy is given, which is equal to AR square. And here A is given constant and R is the distance of the particle from the origin. So that means, for example, say let this be some origin and there is a particle here which is at a distance R, okay, from the origin. Assuming Bohr's model of quantization of angular momentum and circular orbits are found to be valid, you need to find out radius of nth orbit, okay. So what we have to find out in this particular case is what is Rn, okay. So there is a particle here, okay, a small particle of mass m. It is moving in such a way that the potential energy is this, okay. When it is at a distance r, its potential energy can be this, and in this A is given as constant. Able to understand? So this is the given data. From potential energy, you need to find out radius of the orbit in which it revolves. And here it is given that Bohr's model of quantization is valid. Bohr's model of quantization means what? Angular momentum quantization. So what is angular momentum quantization? So L equal to NH by 2 pi. You know this, right? L equal to NH by 2 pi. So this is Bohr's angular momentum quantization, and you have this, what I meant to say is if an electron is revolving in any particular orbit, its angular momentum is integral multiples of h by 2 pi. That means here n equal to 1, 2, 3 and so on like this, natural numbers, integers. That means it will not take 0, that's it. So n equal to 1, 2, 3 and so on. In this particular case, what you have to find out is radius of the orbit. So to find out radius of the orbit, what we do is we'll use this relation between potential energy and force, okay. So we know that du by dr is force, okay. Du by dr is force, its magnitude, So in work power energy lesson, you already learned about this. Conservative force is related with potential energy according to this relation. So in this, I'll differentiate u value and get f value, okay. So what is f? ddr of A in r square, okay. So let's complete the differentiation. It will be 2 times AR. This is the force, okay. So if it is the force, then it should be providing necessary centripetal force according to first postulate. Am I correct? So therefore, I'll equate it to mv square by r. According to Bohr's first postulate, what you can say? This is the force between this particle and the center, which provides necessary centripetal force. From this, I can write mv square equal to 2 times A r square. This is my first equation from Bohr's first postulate, okay. From the first postulate, we get mv square equal to 2 ar square. Then from second postulate, what is second postulate? L equal to nh by 2 pi. L is nh by 2 pi, isn't it? So I can write L as mvr. So mvr equal to nh by 2 pi, okay. So that is second postulate. So here I will write m into v into r equal to nh by 2 pi, nh by 2 pi, or nh cross, where h cross is h by 2 pi. I can write like this, okay. So this is my second postulate. Actually, I need to find out r value. So to get r value, what I will do is I'll divide these 2 equations. Okay. So to divide this, before dividing the equation 2, I'll square it, okay. I'll square equation 2. Then I will get m square, v square, r square equal to n square, h cross square. Why should I square it? To eliminate v, okay. So that I can get r value in terms of constants. So to eliminate v, okay. To eliminate v, I have done squaring of this. Squaring of equation 2, I get this one, okay. So now it is my new equation. So this equation I will divide with this first one. Able to understand? So this is my equation 2, say, okay. This is 2, say it is modified like this, say 2 dash. That I will divide with this equation 1. I'll get mv square, and here I'll get 2a r square. That's it. Now mm cancel, v square cancel, and see v is eliminated now. So what is left out here? Let's see here. M, I'll bring r square this side. It becomes m into r to the power of 4 equal to n square h cross square by 2 times EA. This is left out. I'll take m that side and we'll get r to the power of 4 value, okay? So this is r to the power of 4, which is equal to n square h cross square whole by 2 EAM. That's it. What is h cross? We assumed h cross as h by 2 pi. Now I'll substitute this value. It becomes n square into h cross square is h by 2 pi. So it becomes h square by 4 pi square. 4 pi square into 2, 8 pi square into A and 2m. That's it. This is my r to the power of 4. Now what I'll do is I'll make r as subject. Then it becomes n square h square whole by 8 pi square EAM whole to the power of 1 by 4. That's it. This is the answer for the radius of nth orbit. Okay. So that's all. Hope it is clear. So whenever potential energy is given, then you should use this relation, force equal to du by dr, magnitude. Our actual relation is F equal to minus du by dr, as negative sign is no importance here, so I took magnitude. Basically, this negative sign indicates that the force is attractive and it is a conservative force. This is the relation between conservative force and potential energy. Using this, we'll find out force. And force equal, this force only provides necessary centripetal force for the particle to revolve in circle. So therefore, this force I have equated to centripetal force, from which I made mv square equal to 2a r square. This is one equation I got from first Bohr's postulate. Okay, that means this force provides necessary centripetal force. That is the first postulate. And second one is angular momentum is nh by 2 pi. So this is the angular momentum, which is equated to nh cross, where h cross is h by 2 pi. So this is angular momentum conservation, so quantization. So angular momentum quantization gives you this equation, and force equal to, force between the particle and the center provides necessary centripetal force. From that I get the first equation. From these two postulates, we can finally get Rn, okay, where Rn is n square h square by 8 pi square am. So this is the answer for this question. Hope it is clear. So let's see the next question. Okay, as the orbit number increases, so this is the next question. So as the orbit number increases, the distance between two consecutive orbits in an atom having single electron increases, decreases, remains same, first increases and then becomes constant. So these are the options. Orbit number is increasing, then distance between two consecutive orbits, means distance between two consecutive orbits increases or decreases. That's what we need to find out. Here what is increasing? Orbit number is increasing. Now generally formula for radius of orbit. Radius of orbit is n square h cross square by k z e square m. So this can be written as, this is actually for nth orbit radius. So Rn equal to n square by z into R1, right? What is R1? Bohr's orbit radius, Bohr's radius of hydrogen atom otherwise. Means first orbit radius, okay? Okay, so this is nth orbit radius. Nth orbit radius is n square by z into R1. That means here R1 is nothing but radius of first orbit. Radius of first orbit. Radius of first orbit of hydrogen atom. That means n equal to 1, z equal to 1 case. Okay. So this is the expression for radius of nth orbit. We can say that this is the radius of nth orbit. Okay. Now we'll find out radius for n minus 1th orbit. What would be radius of n minus 1th orbit? It would be n minus 1 whole square by z into R1, right? So Rn minus 1 is equal to you get, r1 by z is common. I'll take out. I'll get n square minus n minus 1 whole square. Okay, so that's it. So I'll simplify it further. I'm getting r1 by z into, so this will be, n square minus, simplify it further, n square plus 1 minus 2n. We'll get like this, plus n square minus n square cancel out, and we'll be getting r1 by z into 2n minus 1. 2n minus 1. So see this equation once again. This is nothing but what? Distance. Distance between nth orbit and n minus 1th orbit. It basically gives distance between nth orbit and n minus 1th orbit. So I got it as r1 by z into 2 times n minus 1, right? So if n increases, what will happen? This gap is increasing. That means what? Distance between the consecutive orbits obviously increases. So the answer is this. Hope you understood. If n is increasing, this gap is increasing, right? The gap between 2 successive orbits increases. Hope you understood. If n increases, this will increase. So our answer must be this. Increases is correct answer. So let's see the next question. Okay, say this. On decreasing principal quantum number n, the values of r and v will be, means decreases, increases, r will increase but v will decrease, r will decrease but v will increase. Okay, so that's what we have to check. So that means on decreasing principal quantum number we generally represent with n, and you are decreasing it. Okay, let this be decrease. What happens to v and r? So tell me, what is the formula for v? Vn equal to k z e square by nh cross, where h cross is h by 2 pi. Okay, where h cross is h by 2 pi. This is Vn value. Okay, and what would be Rn value? It is nothing but n square h cross square by k z e square m. Okay, so this way you can write these two formulas. From these two formulas, what we can understand is, we can understand Vn formula and Rn formula depending on n. Okay, so we can understand that what is the dependency of Vn and Rn with quantum number, right? So if you see this equation, we can understand that Vn is inversely proportional to n and Rn is directly proportional to n square. Now suppose if you are decreasing n value, Vn will increase obviously. As n is decreasing, right? As n decreases, Vn will increase, right? And what about this? Radius is directly proportional to n square. That means as n decreases, Rn also decreases because they are directly proportional. Okay, hope you understood this. So what you should say? Correct answer is, as n is decreasing, as n decreases, Rn decreases, as n decreases, Vn increases. So that means R will decrease but V will increase is correct answer. V is increasing, R is decreasing. So that will be the correct answer. Hope you understood, right? By using Bohr's postulates, first two postulates, you can find out Vn and Rn values, okay, like this. From this we can understand that Vn is inversely proportional to this and Rn is directly proportional to n square. So from these 2 points we can understand that when n is decreasing, this is increasing, when n is decreasing, Rn is decreasing. That's it. So fourth option is correct one. Okay, so let's see the next one. Okay, so this is the next question. According to Bohr's hypothesis, what is the discrete quantity? If you consider this, linear momentum is not discrete, angular velocity not discrete, potential energy cannot be discrete. Why? They are all continuous parameters. Okay, but if you consider angular momentum, this is the only discrete. That means the electron which is revolving around the nucleus cannot have continuous angular momentum. It is discrete. That means angular momentum of electron is quantized. It can have only integral multiples of h by 2 pi. So that means in first orbit, suppose if n equal to 1, L1 equal to h by 2 pi. Suppose if n equal to 2, in the second orbit angular momentum is 2h by 2 pi. In the third orbit, angular momentum, if n equal to 3, angular momentum is 3h by 2 pi. So it cannot be continuous, okay? So it cannot be continuous. In the nth orbit, it will be nh by 2 pi. So this is the one which is discrete, remaining all continuous quantities. Angular momentum, electron cannot have continuous angular momentum. It is discrete. So therefore, this is the answer for this question, okay? So let's see the next one. Okay. Among the following statements regarding Bohr's atomic model, which statement is wrong? So we need to find out, we need to check which statement is wrong. Consider the first one. Radius of orbit is inversely proportional to atomic number. Radius of orbit is inversely proportional to atomic number. R is inversely proportional to Z. Let's see whether it is correct or not. Okay, R is inversely proportional to Z. So what is R formula? R is n square h cross square by k z e square m. This is the formula for radius. N square h cross square by k z e square m. This is the formula for radius of electron in Bohr's atom. So from this we can understand that R is directly proportional to n square and R is inversely proportional to Z. So this option is correct. Okay, you know this formula. So radius of nth orbit in hydrogen atom or hydrogen-like atoms is n square h cross square by k z e square m. So this is the formula. By using first two postulates of the Bohr, we get two equations. So using that two equations, we can divide. We can get this R value. Okay. Let's see the next one. So that means this option is correct. So let us see B. Current associated due to orbital motion of electron is proportional to square of atomic number. Current associated due to orbital motion. Current is say I, and it is given that orbital motion of electron is proportional to square of atomic number. That means it is proportional to Z square. Okay. So let's check. Actually, current in the orbit is nothing but E by T. E by T means you can write EF. EF means you can write F is omega by 2 pi. Omega is V by R. So E into V by 2 pi R. I can write like this. Okay. Now I know R value, and we can also write V equal to K Z E square by N H cross. You know what is H cross? Where H cross is H by 2 pi. H cross is H by 2 pi. So if you consider this formula for I, so I is proportional to V by Rn. I is proportional to V by R. Vn by Rn otherwise. Vn by Rn. I is proportional to Vn by Rn. So we can write, from V formula. So what is V? V is K Z E square by NH cross. So from these two formulas, what we can understand is R is proportional to N square by Z. And V is inversely proportional to N or Z by N like this. The question is about I is proportional to Z square. Is it true or false? That's what we need to check. Okay. So I is proportional to V by R. Okay. Vn by Rn. So I can write I is proportional to, so V is Z by N, right, into Rn is N square by Z. Z by N square, I can write like this. So I can write it as I is proportional to Z square by N cube. So this way we can understand that I is proportional to Z square is correct. It is also inversely proportional to N cube. Able to understand? So what I mean to say is this is radius of nth orbit formula. This is velocity in the nth orbit formula. From this two, we can understand that R is proportional to N square by Z and V is proportional to Z by N. What is this? Z by N. V is proportional to Z by N. And if you see this expression for current, I is proportional to Vn by Rn. I is proportional to Vn by Rn, right? Right? Direct formula for I is EV by 2 pi R. I can write directly EV by 2 pi R. There is a formula here, it is nth orbit, say, if current is in nth orbit, then I can write like this. And if I substitute, for Vn, this, Rn, this one, then we can understand that I is proportional to Z square. That's it. That means our second option also correct. Okay? Second option also correct. Then, third option, if you see, magnetic field at the center due to orbital motion of electron is inversely proportional to Z cube. Magnetic field, it is nothing but magnetic field is represented by B, and at the center of the circular orbit, at the center of a current carrying loop or any orbit, it should be, when electron is revolving, it's like a current loop, okay? At the center of this, B is given by mu naught I by 2R. Mu naught I by 2R. That means B is directly proportional to I by R. That means it is proportional to, I is proportional to, what we have to check here? Whether it depends on magnetic field at the center is proportional to Z cube or not. That's what we need to check. So here we can write I is proportional to Z square, right? I is proportional to Z square, already proved. And R is inversely proportional to Z, right? R is inversely proportional to Z. So 1 by R, so it will be Z. So therefore B is directly proportional to Z cube is correct. So therefore our third option is also correct. Okay? Have you understood? So by using this proportionalities, we can find out at the center of a circular orbit, right? When electron is revolving or current carrying loop, at the center, B is given by mu naught I by 2R. So B is directly proportional to I and inversely proportional to R. And I is directly proportional to Z square and R is inversely proportional to Z. R is inversely proportional to Z. So if you consider these 2 points, we'll understand that B is directly proportional to Z cube, okay? Okay? So therefore, third option is also correct. Next, last one. Velocity of electron is proportional to Z. Velocity of electron is proportional to Z. So what is velocity of electron? So velocity of electron is proportional to Z. Okay. So this is velocity. Velocity of electron is proportional to Z. So this is correct. Velocity of electron is proportional to Z. So here it is given inversely proportional, okay? So you have to check. Here we have got directly proportional, okay? So B is directly proportional to Z, but here it is given inversely proportional to Z cube. So therefore, it should be wrong. Third option should be wrong, So I thought that it is directly proportional, but if you read carefully, then we can understand that it is given inversely proportional to Z cube. So here we have got B directly proportional to Z cube, but here it is given inversely proportional to Z cube. So third option is wrong, but the last one is correct. Velocity of an electron is proportional to Z is correct. Hope this is clear. So we have proved that B is directly proportional to Z cube, but here it is given inversely proportional to Z cube, which is obviously wrong. So, but velocity of an electron is proportional to Z. If you see this expression, Vn is kz d square by n h cross, V is directly proportional to Z, so last option is correct. So this option is correct, this is wrong, and this is correct, this is correct. That's it. So that means option C is not correct. So only C is wrong. This is your answer. Let's see the next question. Okay. According to Bohr's model, the diameter of first orbit of hydrogen atom is, according to Bohr's model, diameter of first orbit of hydrogen atom. For example, say this is first orbit and this is the radius, say R1. Okay. So there will be nucleus here, it is Ze. And electron will be revolving in this circular orbit, okay? So it will be revolving, say it is revolving like this. So we know that radius formula, radius in the nth orbit is given by n square h cross square by k z e square m, okay? Where h cross is h by 2 pi. Okay, so if you see this, if I separate variables and constants, I get n square by z into h cross square by k times e square m. Okay, so this is the formula for radius. Okay, so actually if you substitute all these values, these are all constants. H is Planck's constant, you know its value. Pi is constant. K value, k is what? Here k is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. If you substitute these values, 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, its value is 9 into 10 to the power of 9 SI units, right? Similarly, h value, all these values, if you substitute, we will get it as n square by z into, right, into 0.529 angstrom units. So the question is about hydrogen atom. That means z value is 1, and it is about first orbit. First orbit means quantum number, principal quantum number is 1. So that means this is 1, this is 1. So therefore, finally, we get R1 equal to 0.529 angstrom units. But the question is about, you need to find out diameter, right? Diameter. So diameter is nothing but, diameter is say D. This is nothing but 2 times R. So nearly it is 2 times of this. It is 2 times of 0.529 angstrom units, which is nearly 1 angstrom unit. Okay, so this is the correct answer. That's it. So this is radius, whereas this is diameter. So hope it is clear. So let's see the next question. Okay, next one. Radius of shortest orbit in one electron system. Radius of shortest orbit. Radius of shortest orbit in one electron system, means hydrogen-like atoms, is given as 18 pm. Okay, so that means 18 pm means what? 18 into 10 to the power of minus 12 meters. So this can be written as 0.18 angstrom units. Okay, so radius of shortest orbit in one electron system. So general formula for radius, what is the radius? Radius in the nth orbit can be written as n square by z into r1. Okay, n square by z into r1. The radius of the shortest orbit in one electron system is given. So it should be the shortest orbit. So for shortest orbit, you can take it as 1. And what you have to calculate? N value, that's it. That's it. That means this is given as 0.18 angstrom units, which is equal to n square by z into r1. What is r1 value? Generally, we know this. R1 equal to 0.529 angstrom units, right? I can write it as nearly 0.53 angstrom units. 0.53 angstrom units. Okay, so I'll write it here as 0.53 angstrom units. This is also converted into angstrom units. This side also converted into angstrom units, and it should be shortest. So I'll take n as 1. N as 1 for shortest. Okay, if I take n as 1, then z I will get as 0.53 by 0.18. Okay, so it will be nearly 3. Okay, so therefore I can write it as 3. So if it is 3, if z is 3, I can write this as Li. So that's it. Lithium 3 plus. So this is it. Hope you understood. Okay, so it is shortest radius value is given 18 picometers. I can write it as 18 into 10 to the power of minus 12. So convert into angstrom units, we get it like this. And general formula for radius of nth orbit, right, is Rn equal to n square by z into r1, where r1 is the first orbit radius. That is the shortest. So therefore I have substituted this value, given value, and r1 value also substituted, and here n is how much? 1. Okay, right, it should be shortest. So that means obviously it will be for the first one. So on substituting, we get z value is 3. So therefore this is for lithium. Okay, so it is like hydrogen-like atom, single electron system, Li. Answer is 4th option. Okay, so let's see the next question. So if the radius of first Bohr orbit is x, so radius of first Bohr orbit is x. So radius of first Bohr orbit means obviously r1 is given x. And then de Broglie wavelength of electron, de Broglie wavelength of electron in third orbit is how much? De Broglie wavelength of electron in the third orbit. In the third orbit is, in the third orbit, according to de Broglie, circumference of the orbit, circumference of nth orbit is always equal to n times de Broglie wavelength. N times de Broglie wavelength. Okay. Here it is third. Okay. So n equal to third orbit. Okay. So therefore it should be 3 times lambda d. So Rn, this is 2 pi Rn equal to, I should write this as n equal to 3 given. So it should be 2 pi R3. R3, correct? So you know the formula for Rn. Okay, in the previous problem also we have discussed this. Rn equal to n square by z into R1, right? So what would be R3? R3 equal to 3 square by z into R1, right? So Bohr's orbit, we have to find out this one. Okay, suppose if I substitute here, what I need to actually find out? De Broglie wavelength. Okay, so let's make lambda d as subject. This is the de Broglie wavelength, which is equal to 2 pi into R3 by 3. Okay, so it is, anyway z is 1, so I'll take 3 square, R1 is given as x, so therefore R3 can be substituted as 9x. So 3 square x is what? 9x. Clear? Hope you understood. Rn is n square by z into R1. This R1 is given as x. I have substituted here. And n value is 3 because it is third orbit. So I took n as 3. N is given 3. It's given 3. So therefore, and z is 1, hydrogen atom. Okay? So it is not given, nature of the atom is not mentioned, so we can assume it to be hydrogen. So if it is assumed as hydrogen, I can take z as 1. So when z is 1, it becomes 9 square x. Okay, so I'll substitute it here. Okay, when I substitute here, I get 2 pi into R3 as 9x by 3. It goes 3 times here. Okay, so it will be 6 times pi x. That's all. This is lambda de Broglie. Basically, for example, say this is the orbit of electron, and if it is third orbit, then there will be 3 wavelengths according to him. 3 wavelengths means, for example, this point 1, 2, say 3, 4, 5, 6. If I draw like this, then okay, I can assume it to be like this, and I can say, say this is one wavelength, from here to here, one wavelength, length is lambda, from here to here, another wavelength, so this is another lambda, and from here to here, another, okay, so totally, the circumference is equal to 3 lambda, okay, so in the third orbit, circumference is equal to 3 times wavelength. Circumference is equal to 3 times wavelength. One wavelength means what? One crest, one trough together. So therefore, if I draw 3 waves here, its circumference 3 lambda should be equal to its circumference. So circumference formula is 2 pi r anyway. So we get 2 pi Rn equal to 3 times lambda d. So make lambda d as subject. You are getting 2 pi, right? 2 pi by 3 into R3. R3 formula you can derive from this, and we get it as 9x. So on simplifying, finally we got lambda d as 6 pi x. So this is the answer for this question. Okay, hope it is clear. So let's see the next question. And this is the next question. Hydrogen atom is in its nth energy state. Hydrogen atom is in its nth energy state. If de Broglie wavelength of the electron is lambda, then so hydrogen atom is in its nth energy level. What is de Broglie wavelength and what are the factors on which it depends? That's it. So basically, you know that lambda de Broglie is nothing but h by mv, right? H by mv, correct? So, but what is v here? Velocity in that particular orbit. In which orbit? In the nth orbit. In the nth energy state, you find out velocity. If it is, lambda is the nth orbit de Broglie wavelength, then it should be velocity in the nth orbit, and we know velocity in nth orbit is k z a square by n h cross. Okay, n h cross, where h cross is h by 2 pi, where h cross is h by 2 pi. Okay, so how we get this? We use the two equations, mvr equal to nh cross, which is from second postulate, and from first postulate we get mv square r equal to kz e square, kz e square. So divide equation 2 by equation 1. Okay, so this is my equation 1 and this is my equation 2. Dividing these two equations, we can directly get this. Okay, this is from first postulate, this is from angular momentum quantization, which is second postulate. So if I divide that two directly, we get this one. Okay, from this we can, I'll substitute it here, then I'll get h by m into, what is Vn? K z e square by nh cross. So if you see this equation, the variables are n and z. So that means lambda d is directly proportional to n and inversely proportional to z. That's it. Remaining all constant. See here, mass of the electron constant, k is constant, 9 in 10 power 9, e square, charge on electron constant, Planck's constant, h cross, h by 2 pi constant. So what are variables? N and z. So de Broglie wavelength is directly proportional to n and inversely proportional to z. So if you see that, from this we can write that lambda de Broglie is directly proportional to n. So this could be correct answer. Okay, so that's it. Hope it is clear. So let's see the next question. Okay, see the difference between radii of nth and n plus 1th orbits is equal to radius n minus 1th orbit of hydrogen. So in hydrogen atom, in case of hydrogen atom, so let this be nucleus. So this is a nucleus or Ze nucleus. So let this be nucleus plus Ze. Okay, so these are the orbits. Okay, so let this be the orbits. So the first one is given as nth and n plus 1th, right? Suppose say this is nth, this is n plus 1, and what about this? N minus 1. These are the orbits. It is given that the difference between radius of nth and n plus 1th. That means radius of n plus 1 minus radius of nth orbit is equal to n minus 1th orbit of hydrogen. Okay, so that means radius of n plus 1th orbit minus radius of nth orbit should be equal to radius of n minus 1th orbit. Okay, now what actually we need to find out? Angular momentum of the electron in nth orbit is how much? Angular momentum is what? L you have to find out. In which orbit? Nth orbit. That means, okay, so let's find out what is the value of n, then only we can find out angular momentum. Yes or no? So what you have to find out? N value. So for that what we'll do is, we know that radius formula, which is n square h cross square by k z e square m. This is a formula for radius of nth orbit, and you can understand that it is directly proportional to n square. Correct? Rn is directly proportional to n square for a given z value, remaining all constant. So Rn is directly proportional to n square. If Rn is directly proportional to n square, Rn plus 1 will be directly proportional to n plus 1 square. That means now I will replace Rn plus 1 by n plus 1 whole square. Okay, I can replace it like this. Rn I can replace by n square. Similarly, I can replace Rn minus 1 as n minus 1 whole square. Hope you understood. Just a comparison. Rn is proportional to n square. Obviously, Rn plus 1 is proportional to this, Rn is proportional to this, Rn minus 1 could be proportional to n minus 1 whole square. So now I'll bring it this side. I'll get n plus 1 whole square minus n minus 1 whole square equal to n square. It is like, a plus b whole square minus a minus b whole square. It is 4ab, 4 into n into 1, 4n, which is equal to n square. From this, n cancel out and we get n equal to 4. I got n as 4. That means basically I need to find out angular momentum for the 4th orbit. That means angular momentum for nth orbit is how much? Nh by 2 pi. Nh by 2 pi, correct? And if n equal to 4, then it should be 4h by 2 pi. Clear? So if 4h by 2 pi is equal to 2h by pi. So this is the answer for this question, 2h by pi. So that's all. This is the correct answer, right? Hope it is clear. Okay, so let's see the next question. So this is what Bohr's atom model assumes what? What are the assumptions? Basically, what are the assumptions Bohr's atom model? From Bohr's atom model, what assumptions are taken place? The first one is nucleus is of infinite mass and is at rest. He assumed, Bohr assumed that nucleus is of infinite mass. It has infinite mass and it is at rest. Of course, it is correct. Why? For example, by using Bohr's atom model, we can explain only hydrogen-like atoms. Suppose if you consider hydrogen atom, it contains only one proton. Proton mass is 1837 times. Mass of proton is 1837 times greater than mass of electron. If you consider the next one, helium, He+, it contains four nucleons, 4 times of it. 4 times of it means nearly 7,500 times mass of the electron. That means the nuclei is massive with respect to mass of the electron. So therefore, Bohr assumed that it is having infinite mass. Means, see, if you see this, mass of proton is nearly 2,000 times more than mass of electron. If you see the next one, it is almost 8,000 times bigger in mass. So therefore, he assumed that it is infinitely massive, therefore it should be at rest. So this is the first assumption that is correct. Next one, electron is in a quantized orbit, will not radiate energy. So that is also correct. Quantized orbit will not radiate energy. So that orbit is called stationary orbit. Okay. So if the orbit is quantized, angular momentum is quantized. Angular momentum is nh by 2 pi. As long as the electron is in this quantized orbit, its total energy constant. When its total energy is constant, it will be stable. That means atom will be stable. When total energy is constant, it cannot radiate. Basically, it is a charged particle, right? If a charged particle is moving in a circular orbit, what should happen is it will be accelerating, right? Charged particle is moving in a circular path, therefore it is an accelerating charged particle. Accelerating charged particle should emit electromagnetic radiation. That means it should be emitting energy. So as it is emitting energy, it should its energy finally gradually should decrease and then it should spiral into the nucleus, but that's not happening because in the nature all the atoms are stable, but if it is radiating energy, atom cannot be stable, but in the nature all the atoms are stable. So therefore he quantized this angular momentum. In this orbit, total energy is constant. That assumption is also correct. Okay, let's see the next one. Mass of the electron remains constant, of course true. So all 3 assumptions are correct, right? So 1, 2, 3 are correct. That's the correct answer. So let's see the next question. Okay, so this is the next one. The radius of hydrogen atom when it is in second excited state becomes. So radius of hydrogen atom you have to find out in which state, second excited state. So what is the formula for nth orbit radius? Nth orbit radius is n square h cross square by k z e square m. This is it. You can write it as n square by z into radius of first orbit. This is the nth orbit radius. You know this formula, right? How it is derived also I have explained. So Rn equal to n square by z into R1. So in this, what we have to find out, radius of hydrogen atom when it is in second excited state. Second excited state means what? Second excited state. So this is a ground state, n equal to 1, this is ground state. So next one is n equal to 2, this is first excited state, Next one, n equal to 3 is second excited state. What is this? Second excited state, okay. So what is the radius when n is 3? Indirectly that is the question. For n equal to 3, what is the radius? So n equal to 3, if you put n equal to 3, then radius of third orbit we get. That is nothing but second excited state radius, which is equal to 3 square by z into R1. So therefore it becomes 9 times. So 9 times, right? 9 times R1, okay? So therefore this is the correct answer. 9 times it becomes. Okay, for second excited state it becomes 9 times. For this 4 times. Okay, so it is directly proportional to n square, that's it. So directly proportional to n square. So that's all. Hope it is clear. Let's see the next question. Order of size of nucleus and Bohr's radius of an atom respectively are. So this is size of nucleus. Size of nucleus is nearly 1 Fermi. Nearly 1 Fermi. So anyway, 10 power minus 14 is given. That's correct. And I can take this one, and Bohr's radius of an atom. Bohr's radius means R1 value. So this is correct answer. The standard result. Okay, that means nucleus. From this, what we can understand is nucleus size is with respect to size of the atom. Nucleus is 1 lakh times smaller. That means entire mass of the atom and entire positive charge is concentrated in such a small region whose radius is of the order of 10 to the power of minus 10 meters, and atom radius is nearly 1 Fermi. 1 Fermi, okay? So this is it. If this is the atom, and the difference is 1 lakh times, nearly 1 lakh times. It is 1 lakh times smaller with respect to it. So you can assume that it is all empty space. Only entire mass and entire positive charge is concentrated in this nucleus. Its radius is this much, okay? So that's, let's see the next question. The possible values of principal quantum number, So basically principal quantum number gives state of the electron, that's it. It gives the state of the electron and its value should be, cannot take 0, that's it. 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on, that's it. That's correct. And for the next question, if the radius of the first Bohr orbit is R, radius of first Bohr orbit R is equal to R, then radius of second orbit will be how much? Radius of second Bohr orbit. So same formula we have to use, Rn equal to what? N square, h cross square by k, z, e square, m. This is the formula where h cross is h by 2 pi. So this is the formula for radius of nth orbit, right? In this case, we have to find out radius of second orbit. So radius of second orbit we need to find out. So radius of second orbit means n should be taken as 2. That's all. Therefore, R2 equal to, you can also write, simply you can also write it as n square by z, n square by z into R1, okay? So that means Rn can always be written as n square by z into R1, okay? So this is n square, this is z. These are variables. If you separate variables from constants, the constant value becomes 1. Okay, that means if n equal to 1, z equal to 1, then whatever value you get, that is nothing but R1. So therefore, Rn equal to n square by z into R1. Okay, n square by z into R1. What we need to find out? Radius of second orbit. Radius of second orbit means what? N is 2. If I put n equal to 2, I will get R2, which is equal to 2 square, right? 2 square by z. That means 4 by z into R1. Okay. So if the radius of first orbit is R, then radius of second orbit will be how much? If the radius of first orbit is taken as R, for hydrogen atom, you can substitute Z equal to 1. For hydrogen atom, you can substitute Z equal to 1. So if I substitute Z equal to 1, R1 equal to, given as R, if I take it as R and Z equal to 1, it becomes 4 times R. Okay, so that's it. This is the answer for this question, 4 times R. So general formula, this is it. Rn equal to n square by z into R1. Here I consider this z as 1 for hydrogen atom, and here n is given as 2. So it will be 2 square. R1 is given as R. On substituting all these values, we can understand that R2 for second orbit radius becomes 4 times R. So that's all. Okay. So that's all for now, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.